When I think back on my relationship with Ethan, there's one thing that always makes me cringe. Not the breakup, not the way he left, not even the life he's living now without me. What haunts me is the one sentence I threw at him, sharp and ugly, in the middle of a stupid argument: "You'd be nothing without me." At the time, I believed it. That's the worst part. I met Ethan when I was 24, at a friend's game night. He was quiet at first, the kind of guy who listens more than he talks. But when he did speak, his dry humor caught me off guard. He wasn't flashy or loud, but there was something grounded about him. Like he knew exactly who he was and didn't feel the need to perform for anyone. I had just gotten out of a relationship with a guy named Ryan. Tall, charismatic, a complete whirlwind. Ryan made life exciting, but also exhausting. He was impulsive, reckless with money, and allergic to responsibility. When we broke up, I told myself I needed the opposite. Ethan seemed to fit that bill perfectly. From the start, I felt like I was the leader in the relationship. I had the better job, the bigger friend circle, the nicer apartment. I was ambitious, always pushing myself to do more, earn more, see more. Ethan, meanwhile, seemed perfectly content with what he had. A modest IT job, a small but cozy apartment, and a simple routine. He wasn't lazy, but he wasn't driven the way I thought a man should be. So, without even realizing it, I made him my project. I encouraged him to apply for higher-paying positions. I got him to upgrade his wardrobe. I introduced him to networking events, dragged him to social functions, even suggested books and podcasts about leveling up in life. He didn't resist. Ethan wasn't the type to pick fights. But he never seemed overly excited about it, either. 2 years in, we moved into my apartment. I covered more than half the rent because I earned more. I planned our vacations. I picked the restaurants. I decided how we spent weekends. I told myself it was because I was good at planning and he didn't mind, but looking back, I realize I never left much room for what he wanted. Then came the argument. It was a Thursday night. I'd just gotten home from work, exhausted but wired, and I suggested we go to a last-minute networking mixer downtown. Ethan had already planned to spend the evening working on a personal coding project. He politely declined. I pushed. He pushed back. I accused him of lacking ambition. He said not everyone needs to be on all the time to have a good life. That's when I snapped and said it. You'd be nothing without me. The silence that followed was heavy. Ethan didn't yell or storm out. He just looked at me for a long moment, like he was finally seeing me clearly for the first time. Then he said, "You might be right," in this quiet, almost thoughtful tone that sent a chill through me. The next few weeks felt strange. He wasn't cold or rude, but something in his demeanor had shifted. He was more reserved, less eager to join in on my plans. I chalked it up to him needing space and thought it would blow over. I was wrong. One Friday, I came home from work and found his side of the closet empty. His desk was gone. His favorite mug was missing from the kitchen cabinet. On the counter was a single envelope with my name on it. The letter inside was brief. He thanked me for the time we'd shared, acknowledged that I had pushed him in ways that had helped him grow, but said he realized he'd been living my life, not his. He wanted to figure out who he was without my influence. And then, the kicker, "You might be surprised at what I can make of myself without you." I called him immediately. No answer. Texted him. Nothing. I even went by his office, only to be told he'd already handed in his resignation and left. Mutual friends later told me he'd taken a fully remote job with a major tech company that paid better than his old one and allowed him to travel. I tried to convince myself it was just a phase, that he'd eventually miss the stability of our life together and come back. Then I saw his Instagram. In the span of 6 months, he'd been to Japan, Iceland, Costa Rica. He was hiking glaciers, learning to surf, trying street food in bustling night markets. He looked fit, tan, and genuinely happy in every photo. And in many of those photos, there was a woman. A tall, elegant brunette with an easy smile. At first, I told myself she was just a travel buddy. But over time, it became clear she was more than that. And unlike me, she seemed to fit seamlessly into his new lifestyle. They weren't posting extravagant date nights or flashy gifts. They were just living, side by side, in a way that looked effortless. That's when the reality sank in. Ethan had never lacked ambition. He just didn't want the kind of ambition I was pushing. He'd been fine without rooftop bars and networking mixers. What he wanted was freedom, experiences, and the ability to choose his own path. And without me steering the wheel, he'd gone out and built exactly that. The final blow came about a year later, when we ran into each other at a mutual friend's wedding. I almost didn't recognize him. He was leaner, more confident, radiating this quiet energy that drew people in. When he spotted me, he walked over, hugged me warmly, and asked how I'd been. I told him about my new promotion, my recent trip to New York, all the accomplishments I thought would impress him. He listened politely, smiled, and said, "I'm glad you're doing well." When I asked about his life, he spoke about it in a way that made me ache. Scuba diving in Bali, learning Italian in Florence, volunteering at a wildlife rescue in South Africa. And when I, unable to help myself, asked about her, his expression softened. "She's incredible," he said. "Being with her feels easy." There was no malice in his voice, no attempt to rub it in. Just the truth. I smiled, wished him well, and spent the rest of the night watching them from across the room. Laughing, dancing, completely absorbed in each other. It was a life I had once wanted for myself, but Ethan had found it without me. When I got home that night, I deleted him from my social media. Not out of spite, but because I couldn't keep torturing myself by watching the man I'd once underestimated live a life better than the one I tried to create for us. I told myself I'd been the strong one in the relationship. The one who made things happen. The one who lifted him up. But the truth was, Ethan didn't need me to make it. All I did was convince him he couldn't. Until he went out and proved me wrong. Sometimes, the worst mistake you can make is thinking someone's success depends on you. Because if you're wrong, you might just have to watch them live the life you always wanted. Without you in it.